plan on speaking tonight, would you please sign in at the lake? We will look over the agenda here. The first item is approval of January invoices.
I'll move we approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right. Approval of the January minutes from last month. Discussed that Monday.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Second.
Sorry, can you turn off your microphone?
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody or just? Everybody eventually, but try these to me.
Everybody that's going to speak.
Well, then you know I need to turn mine off.
But I think they could probably hear you. So we have a motion and a second to approve the January minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And the agenda for this month.
No changes.
No changes. All right, I have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Smith and Mr. Vest, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we have any items for postponement or withdrawal? Joe?
Yeah, just listed on the agenda, the Sanderson property and the Cherry Blossom tract for phase 11.
All right, if you are here to hear the Sanderson property or the Cherry Blossom Village tract, that is going to be postponed until a later date. And they will not be heard tonight. And what items are eligible for consent?
All right, we have 4 items eligible, so items C, D, E, and F on the agenda.
Items C, D, E, and F, and that's the Tevis property, the David Jacobs property, Ball Investments, LLC, and the Drake DeTardy, is that proper
Yeah.
pronunciation? Partnerships that are
We're moving
eligible
over.
for consent. And we will take
Everything
those
but the first one.
one at a time.
Yeah.
Do we need to go ahead and do those now or in order?
I'd go ahead and do them now, probably,
The wise thing to do there. Okay. First item, FSP 2024-03, the Tevis property, track 11, final subdivision plat to divide 1 5-acre tract, leaving a 42.8 acre remaining tract located at 2139 Fisher's Mill Road. Is there anyone here that is opposed to that or would like to hear it? Seeing no opposition to it, that is consent eligible.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
David Vest. Second by Dan Smith. Okay, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
for the record, Mr. Garrett is not here this evening. Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Ms. Singer,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
Go ahead and go over.
All right, that has been approved, and if you'll see Mr. Perkins. The next consent eligible property is the FSP 2024-04 David Jacobs property. It's a final subdivision plat to subdivide 1 5-acre tract from a 310-acre farm leaving 305 acre remaining, located at 157 Green Lane. Is there anyone that is opposed to that development or has questions about it? All right, seeing no opposition to it, I will take a motion and
I move that we accept it.
FSP-2024-04 for approval.
Second.
motion by Mr. Jesse and second by Mr. Stone. All right, Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Ms. Singer,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Okay. Again, if you'll come see Mr. Perkins up here. The next item is FSP 2024-05, Ball Investment LLC, the final subdivision plat to subdivide a 51-acre farm into 4 parcels located on Barkley Road. Is there anyone opposed to that or have questions about it? Yes, sir.
We do.
Okay, well, then we will, that will have to be heard in order then, so we will set that aside. And then the final one that is available for consent agenda is PSP 2024-06, Drake and DeTardy, a partnership preliminary subdivision plat to subdivide the combined commercially zoned properties into 7 lots located at the northwest corner of East Main Street and McClellan Circle. Is there anyone that is opposed to that or would like to hear it? All right, then I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval of PSP 2024-06, Drake and DeTardy Partnership.
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. All right. Ms. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Garrett, no, he's not here, sorry. Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And this is what's wrong with it.
All right, that's good. All of those. All right, so we go back up to FSP 2024-02, the Wilder property, the final subdivision plat to subdivide 2 5-acre parcels and 1 27.8-acre parcel from 134 acres, leaving an 85-acre remainder located at 2301 North Yarnleton Pike.
Thank you. As Charlie stated, this is a final subdivision plat to subdivide 1 farm into a remainder and then 3 parcels of varying sizes ranging from 5 acres to 27.8 acres. The farm's current address is 2301 North Yarnleton Road, or Pike, and the subdivided parcels will have an address off of Ironworks Road. They've already been assigned, and they'll be the 2100 to 2150 Ironworks Road. It's an agriculturally zoned parcel that is in total 134 acres. 2 of the parcels that are proposed to be subdivided are 5 acres each, and 1 of the parcels is 27.8 acres, leaving a remainder of 85 acres that is does not have an active preliminary subdivision plan, and 15 acres that does. This specific 15 acres, they've for clarity and for their uses, they've separated that in part, like informally, as 2 different portions, one of which having that preliminary approval from 2008 which predates our sunset clause in the other portion that has not itself been subdivided, so it's not really part of that 2008 subdivision. There is one variance associated with this application, specifically for the distances between driveways accessing 5 to 10 acre parcels. This is an aerial shot of the property here. So North Ironton is running north-south, and Ironworks Road is running east-west. And they're looking to subdivide the portion that's off of Ironworks, and the resulting subdivision would leave the remainder with no frontage on Ironworks anymore. This is the kind of proposed layout here. They're proposing using 2 existing entrances off of Ironworks Road one existing entrance off of Ironworks Road and 1 existing entrance off of North Ironton. I've noted the adjoining 5 acre parcels entrance because that comes into play with their variance that they're talking about. So we'll get there, but that entrance would not be serving this portion of the subdivision. That's just, again, that's for that variance conversation. They are proposing 2 new entrances, one that would service the larger 27.8 acre parcel, and another that is north of that one that would be serving the 2 5-acre parcels centered on their shared property line. It appears that the farm is going to also use some of that existing farm entrance, but they've not explicitly outlined who's using what and when and how and why. When we're looking at that entrance off of Ironworks Road, the subdivision regs have specifically that when you are 5 to 10 acre parcels adjacent to one another as part of the same subdivision plan, you have 300 feet of separation between you, and there is a shared entrance that you would utilize. And given the layouts of the driveways in previous subdivisions and the location of being shared on the shared property line, there's not a sufficient amount of space to satisfy that requirement. So you can see that property to the north that's adjoining the proposed subdivision, its entrance is right up against that property line with parcel 8. And so if they're wanting to center it on the property line there between parcels 8 and 9, then they need to have a variance reviewed and approved. There's sufficient site distance looking north and south from this location, and staff reasonably believes that this wouldn't cause any issues with safety, and ultimately does recommend approval of this variance request. I'd like to note that in the parcel 10, the new entrance and the existing entrance are also both less than 300 feet apart, but given that this parcel measures 27 acres in area, this requirement is not in play. If this was a smaller parcelage, we'd be looking at the same thing for those 2 entrances locations. All things considered, staff does recommend approval of the variance request and has included the 4 conditions of approval. These are standard 4 we use for agricultural subdivisions. They adhere to our regs. They get their reviews done with us or at meetings again. They come before us and make sure that they have their JS things, and they have 2 years to execute the preliminary plan or the final plan. Yes.
That variance is just because, like, if that neighbor's driveway was over 20 feet, it wouldn't matter.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it is because they've wanted to center it, and
Yes.
that distance is less than 300 feet apart, they need the variance.
It has nothing to do with the width of the lot, it's just where the entrances are.
Correct.
Wanna make sure that's correct.
The lots do meet all width requirements, so it's just the width requirements and the entrances kind of make it a little bit awkward.
Yeah. If they centered theirs on the neighbor's driveway, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, if they shared those 2 together and then these 2 together,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be having any complications with the ordinance.
Any other questions for Elise? Okay. Does the owner have anything to say?
I'm Rita Jones. I'm the realtor for Ed Wilder. He couldn't be here tonight. His wife's in the hospital.
Oh.
Sorry,
excuse
swear me.
I'm sorry. Charlie?
It's just dawning on me, we hadn't done that, had we? Anybody else going to be speaking tonight? If you could, please stand. You swear affirm the statement you make tonight to be the truth, and the best of your information and belief. I do.
I do.
Thank you.
So I'm here on behalf of Ed, and we're trying to, he's up in his 80s and his wife is not healthy. So we're trying to sell some 5-acre tracts for him. And Brad, you're exactly right. If that neighbor would have put his driveway anywhere away, we wouldn't be asking for a 25-foot variance. But we come here today asking that. I'm here if you have any questions.
Anyone have any questions? I think at least covered most everything. All right. Does anyone in the audience have questions for staff or the developer? All right. Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval of FSP 2024-02, Wilder property.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Ms. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. All right. And then the last item under new business then is the ball investment.
Lovely. This is a final subdivision plat to subdivide a 51-acre farm into 4 parcels located off of Barkley Road, just north of the Barkley-Bailey Road intersection. The resulting parcels would range from about 11.5 acres up to about 13.18 acres, all of which having their own independent access off of Barkley Road. There are no variances associated with the request to subdivide. This is an aerialist shot of the property here. You can't really see the road, but there is a gray line, and that western property line does follow the curvature of Barkley Road. So we would be working with that, and you also cannot see the intersection with Bailey Road, but I swear it is there. This is kind of what they're proposing here. They are interested in essentially making a piano keys arrangement, stacking them up on top of each other, long, not overly narrow to not have buildable areas, but more narrow than a square is. Lots off of Barkley Road, each having a portion of frontage onto it. Each parcel is proposed to have its own entrance, starting with the entrance to the first one, that's the existing one, and then just kind of stacking them up all the way up. Because these are greater than 10 acres, there's no requirement for separation between driveways. While there may be instances where they could potentially be closer to one another for safety purposes, our ordinance doesn't explicitly outline a requirement that they be shared or that they be side by side. It may be nice to have it, but again, our ordinance doesn't explicitly require it at this time. I'd like to draw attention to entrance number 2 to the second parcel, which is directly joining that first odd parcel. This is a photo of the drive or the road as you're looking. Is this north, Ben, or is this looking south? This is looking south towards Bailey Road. You can see the side with the pink stake in it is the property in question, and you can see there's a lot of built-up brush and everything like that. So as part of their conditions of approval, we've put in that they need to clear up those brush in order to allow for sufficient site distance. And the applicant is aware of this requirement from our office. Just helps a lot when you're coming in and out of driveways, especially if you're below grade of the road, that you can see everybody without having to pull your nose out and risk any damages or incidents happening on that road.
So you're not talking about the brush by the pink ribbon, you're talking about the brush on up
Well, it
toward the
would
top
be
of the picture?
at the pink ribbon and up.
Okay.
They have
All
to,
of it, correct?
pretty much a very good percentage of that brush off of
Okay.
Barkley Road. Whatever volume results in that sufficient site distance is what we would be conditioning that they would remove.
So the lots could not be sold until they do that?
Correct, that would be a condition, specifically that they
And-
need to have that, yeah.
How far up does their property line go, according to, because the top of the hill is right where the Bailey intersection is, right? And that doesn't go all the way to Bailey, right? Correct?
No.
Is it kind of where those cedar trees are that I see there? Is that the property line, probably, the farm, that little row of cedar trees?
No, it'll be clear from entrance 1 to entrance 2, all the way.
So that'll be,
That's right, because one's on the other side.
hmm?
Okay.
It's probably about 200, 300 feet of clearing
Okay.
or more that they would have to do to clear up from entrance 1 to entrance 2. But it would ultimately be good for safety to have that cleared sight line when you're coming onto the site for both the users of entrance 1, or parcel 1, and the users of parcel 2. This is kind of what it looks like here with the kind of, the property lines overlaid the aerial imagery. Again, can't really see the roads, but they are in fact there. Ultimately, staff recommends approval of this. It satisfies all of our requirements for agricultural subdivision, and it recommends 5 conditions of approval. I'd like to draw to attention specifically condition 5 that states that they need to clear up a sufficient amount of brush in order to have those necessary site distances, and those entrances need to be approved prior to final plat approval and recording.
Is there, by doing those like that, is it legal, say somebody comes in and buys one of those 11-acre tracts?
Mhm.
Could you come in after the fact and say, okay, I've got 11 acres here, I want to break it into 2?
They could. They would have to go through the hearing process again. If they were going to be subdividing it, given the lot widths, you'd be looking at a front one with frontage on the road and a rear one without frontage and an access easement to get to Barkley Road.
Would there be a variance needed for that, or is that something that,
If they're using the same one with an access easement, there would likely not be a variance. It would ultimately be up to the property owner how they subdivide it, so it's hard to say with certainty what
Yeah.
variances may be in play.
right?
But, yeah.
But that was, so somebody could, I'm just saying.
Mhm. Someone could come in and cut each of these in
into
half.
2,
Yes,
yeah.
By using the same driveway.
yes.
It'll make it easier.
Yeah. And that's kind of the issue I have with these country roads, and we
Mhm.
talked about this at workshop.
Mhm.
And I know that's the law, but it's foolish that the bigger acreage you have, the less road frontage you have to have.
Yes.
That makes no sense to me, but that's the way it is right now. I don't know, that's the best thing for us to look at an area here where we could have 6 lots at a place that's pretty skinny, and it's way back off a main road. You know, it's a good
Yes.
ways out there.
It is a bit of ways out there. There were a lot of calls from neighbors, either living off of Barkley or in some of the adjoining streets, that were concerned that, given the curvature of the roads
Mhm.
and the number of lots, these multiple driveways would result in some unsafe or some uncertain conditions where you're not used to it, and then you have incidents on the road or conflicts where they could be avoided. But again, it meets all of our expectations of the ordinance, so that's where the recommendation of approval is coming from. If we can potentially get them clustered together, that may be safer, but again, our ordinance doesn't require that they be clustered together.
Okay.
Any other questions for Elise? Okay, would the owner like to make any comments or
Yes.
have any opposition to what is being presented?
One thing that I don't think they mentioned, I'm Marvin Ball, Ball Investments, by the way.
you.
There will be a hydrant installed between parcel 2 and parcel 3, given there's not one out there. Also, I
Will
don't
it be
know.
right on the road or off the road? Or?
That will be up to the county.
Okay.
Where they want it.
How do
They'll
they
come out and they'll
generally
mark
do
it, they'll
that?
tell me where they want it.
Yeah.
And we will have that installed.
Oh, that's where the water line is.
Okay.
It's gotta be right
Yeah, that's
there.
where the main will run.
Yeah.
Your question about subdividing them further, I think that might be difficult just because of building width, where they're not really wide tracks. I don't know, that'd be a question for them, but I would be unsure, because I think they're only 250 foot wide, and they gotta be so wide before they can build on them. That might be an issue if they wanted to subdivide them further. We have no intentions of doing anything like that. We intend to clear between the purple and the red marker, all the trees, give you more than sufficient sight distance on all the driveways. That's all I've got. Any questions for me? All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, is there anyone else that has some questions? Yes, sir. Come right on up and state your name, please, sir.
My name's Kevin Gregory, and I own property across the road from this parcel. And I understand what's allowed and what's not allowed. I'm just here to express my concerns on what's going on. I've lived down there for 40 years. My wife has never lived anywhere else other than on Barkley Road. That used to be Giles Road, and they changed the name to Barkley, and that just so happens to be her maiden name. She's a Barkley, so that road is named after her family. It is a very narrow road, and you know, I came up here with 4 lots, and now there's potential that it can be 8 lots if somebody chose to do that. People come down there all the time, and it's just, the road structure cannot handle the traffic that we have now. And if you put 8 more houses, which is potentially 16 more vehicles going up and down Barkley Road, it's very dangerous. And I understand, you know, everybody needs to make money and all, but being said, we have somebody, and nothing against you, sir, but you have somebody that is not from this county, let alone, you know, from that area, that is going to profit from somebody else's loss, and then they're going to be gone, and the people that live there have got to pay the repercussions. I'm sorry. It's going to raise my property taxes, and for the rest of my life, it's going to cost me more money just because I've got a subdivision across from my house. And that's all good, but I'm just afraid in the long run, by doing this, eventually the people that live there all their lives are not going to be able to afford to live there anymore. And that's going to be just terrible. I mean, we own her grandfather's farm that's probably been in her family for almost 100 years. I'm just afraid if you all allow this to happen, that eventually you're just going to push everybody out that has, I mean, I make a living there. I raise cattle there. There used to be cattle on this farm. Unfortunately, they had some bad luck, but I'm just afraid that this is what's going to happen, is you're just going to run the people that make a living down there and have lived their whole lives away. And to me, that's just a travesty. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kevin.
Elise, could you speak to the ability to subdivide any further?
So, given that these lots, all of them individually are greater than 10 acres, there is the potential of getting this property subdivided. That's obviously up to the discretion of an applicant and a property owner if they're going to do that, but there is the potential of having it, or given the size of above 10 acres, they could get a secondary residence permit with the County Board of Adjustment, which is also not atypical. Family members, the older generation buys property, has a house, and then they have a kid who wants to start a house and start a family, and they build on the same land. So there is always the potential for that. At this time, I've not heard of any expression of that a buyer is interested and will be subdividing, but there is the potential that could occur.
The lot width wouldn't impact the ability to subdivide?
Well, it would, in that the lots would have to be like the frontage lot, that is the western one that has road frontage on the Barkley Road, and then the eastern half, which is the part that doesn't have road frontage, and an access easement would have to go from the eastern to the western for access utilities to ideally an existing driveway. I would likely see that we would have an existing driveway requirement for that one. So at that time, it would have to go through hearing again, like this subdivision does, and it would come before the board and we would discuss the feasibility of everything like that.
If I might ask a question, what's the topography like on the back half of these lots? I mean, does it drop off pretty good?
It's all.
Hilly.
Yeah, well, you're right, you do that front, but I mean, but the back is really rough, isn't it? So I mean, the odds are really not very good that it's gonna be subdivided to the back lot.
You
I mean, the
have
expense-
not in the country to see what people build lately.
Well, that's true, but
You get a man from
that's-
Eastern,
that
that
is
man's
quite-
like, this is
quite
flat
more
land.
expensive to build on
I
that
bet Ben's
than it
house
is
has
on
some
any
hills
expensive
around it, doesn't
land.
it?
So.
Out there in
they
God's
sold
country.
26 acres of this farm off years ago, and it was subdivided into 2 lots, and it is straight downhill from the road. It's at the corner of Bailey and Barkley. There was 26 acres, and I think that's when Tom died. His wife sold that off, and it's straight downhill, you can't see anything, they've subdivided it, and they built houses back down in there somehow.
But if a family member bought one of these lots,
Mhm.
say a 10-acre lot, whatever lot,
Mhm.
they could potentially, without having rezoning another lot, build a second dwelling on this property.
You wouldn't be rezoning, nor would you be subdividing. You could do a conditional use permit for a secondary residence on any parcel that's greater than 10 acres, but you still have to go to board hearing. It's the different board, it does county level stuff. They do dimensional
adjustment.
variances and use permits.
Thank you.
So they do have the potential, they could go that way, they could chop it up, and then it comes back to this specific board.
But that would also make it difficult, because then they only have to be 100 feet apart. And then making that into 2 lots down the road to sell, that makes that a highly irregular lot. So there's a whole lot of obstacles.
There's a lot of, yeah.
This is all potential, yes, but there's a lot of obstacles to it actually happening.
Mhm.
But it becomes easier within a family if they just keep it as one piece of property with 2.
And it stays that way, yes,
Yeah.
otherwise they kind of reduce the value.
Except you
of it
have
because-
extended family living on your property, sometimes
Yeah.
not easy.
It's becoming. more
Brad.
common.
I can attest to that. Over the hill, over
We
the
won't
hill,
ask about the experience.
over the hill.
Actually, that's the fastest growing house in multi-generation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments for lease or the owner?
I'm kind of confused. Each of those lots are going to have a road entrance?
They do each have a driveway, or they're requesting to have a driveway be put in. So one's using the existing one, and then 3 more north of it are proposed.
It's straight down.
Yes.
What's the width of the road there?
The survey that they
County
submitted is, I believe, 16 feet.
16 feet?
60.
So it's not a marked center line, I would anticipate, just 2 whites on the sides. And the may or may not include a paved shoulder, which in certain areas is a bit steep.
Yeah, yes.
So the photograph that you showed with the pink ribbon, that one right there.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it looks like that it drops off pretty quickly
Mhm.
right there.
Like onto the parcel itself or the road?
Yeah, no, to the parcel itself. So is there any, does it drop off and flatten out, or does it just keep going downhill?
It drops pretty good, so something to know too, is if you wanted to build in the back, you'd have an 800-foot driveway, an up and then a down. And, that would be expensive. And another thing, like these houses, if these lots sell individually, they are liable to sell with the adjacent lots that are a little better. That's something I would not be surprised on, but, they would be walkout basements, because I mean, it's, like I said, it's standard downhill. I don't think there would be much building behind it, it would be very difficult.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I purposely did not go. Ben went, and I was like, you do that, I'm gonna stay inside. So,
I kind of got a comment to what Kevin said. I agree with you 100% about selling off these lots and these small roads and about being your wife's grandfather's farm. But unfortunately, in the county that we live in, this is something that's happening all over the county, not just where you live. This man bought this piece of property, just like, you know, in order for this not to happen, people like you and I and Brad or Mr. Stone, whoever loves the farm and to farm, we're gonna have to buy it. And unfortunately, we all can't do that. And this is according to the specs and the regs, this is all legal, and, you know, it kind of ties our hands, is what I'm trying to tell you, in a sense.
And I will say,
I understand that, I totally do. So we need to do something about this. Something needs to be done to limit some of this stuff. Because, I mean, what are we gonna do?
Well, I agree.
You're gonna run out of farm, you're gonna run out of land at some point.
Brad brought this up at the workshop, you know, about the 5-acre lots. I've said it from the start. We need to stop selling off Scott County 5 acres at a time. You know, Fayette County changed it for a reason, and here we are still selling off 5-acre lots like crazy.
Faster.
Because the people's coming for Toyota and different jobs, which is great for the county. But for the farmers like you and I and Brad and Mr. Stone and other people, it's just getting harder and harder to make a living farming, period. Because there's no land there to do.
well, I will say also, because it's getting harder and harder to make a land farming, that's why many farmers are selling their land. So they are forced to do it because they ultimately.
Run hand in hand.
Exactly. They are
But
not
like-
independent variables.
But like Kevin and I, you know, we both farm a little, but we also got other jobs. And that's what the world's coming to here, in my opinion. But I still believe we need to change that 5 acre.
Well,
The county would need to change that.
the county needs,
County
But,
would need to
you
change
know,
that.
the roads just won't support it. If nothing
Yeah.
else, the roads won't support every,
Roads aren't gonna change.
And you're
They're
gonna
not
see a
gonna
lot
happen.
more
That's
of
not
this,
gonna
I'm
happen.
It's been like
afraid.
that since I-
and it's gonna continue to be like that. I mean, you can't spend money on that kind of
Georgetown
thing.
Pike, 922, I mean, Brad, you're farming on 922.
Mhm.
The state does not maintain that road for crap.
Mm-mm.
Now, JR does a tremendous job. My road is first road done, well, Anderson's first road and Barclay's the second, because they come right off Anderson.
And then you gotta get on
And
922.
then I gotta get on 922, and it's just.
Terrible.
It's terrible.
Yeah, because
So now what are you
state
gonna
road.
do? You get 30 more people down there that can't drive to begin with. And now, you know, we got, it's something has got to be done. or stop selling off the farm.
It does.
Lot size.
And I agree, but like I say, this man here bought this farm, and he has the right to do whatever he wants to do with it. And that's, you know, that's why I say, and I hate to say it like this, but we either buy it or we live with it.
Well, I didn't know about it, but I probably wouldn't.
Yeah. But that's pretty much, that's my opinion. What it's worth, it ain't worth much, but what it's worth.
Completely unrelated, but my husband's family's Barclays. My youngest son is named Barclay. My husband's late great grandmother, obviously, was a Barclay, Betty Barclay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's she was my husband's great grandmother. Betty, yeah. So we have a Barclay.
She would be my cousin.
Okay, all right.
David, I see the other side of it, and I farm too.
Right.
But so many of the people that I deal with are older farmers, just like Mr. Wilder.
Yeah.
And they call it the golden years because it takes a lot of gold to get through those years.
Yeah,
And
it's a retirement
selling
fund for them.
off A 5-acre tract is the easiest solution. And when Fayette County went to 40 acres, they also offered the PDR program. So if there's funding for a PDR, maybe that's a great idea, but otherwise, if we went to 40 acres, we would be shortchanging our farmers.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
I will also say my family is a family farm and stamping ground, and a couple hundred acres, and they're faced with the likelihood that because the farm leasing it out doesn't make enough money to support the maintenance of the farm, probably here and there, they'll have to sell 5-acre lots in order to fund fencing and things like that, and barn repair, in order to keep
Right.
the farm in good repair.
But it doesn't have to be 40 is my point.
Yeah,
You know, that's just what Fayette County does,
but
you know.
he's still in 10 acres.
Right, which is
And he'll
better than
sell that.
5.
It's better than 5, but he'll sell that for the same price as a 5-acre tract.
Right.
When it's all said and done, because all they want is a place to build a house.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're coming to Scott County, they're gonna live here and drive our roads somewhere. They may be in a subdivision on Old Oxford, which I deal with a lot, but they're gonna come here. And they're helping our property taxes. Now, the land value's going up, but if you've got more than 10 acres, you're based on an ag value. And by all these people coming in and building these $500,000 houses, they're establishing a higher tax base. So our tax rates are cheaper by more people coming in. Does that make sense?
I don't know if I believe that when I write that check to God,
I don't think they said
I'll
it'd go
take your
down.
word for it.
There's just more to tax out of the county. than
And
there's
oddly enough,
to
that
out.
is true, because there's a ceiling on how high the taxes can go.
Right.
And when the base goes up, your rate can't keep going up because
Compensating rate.
it gets top heavy, you can't do that.
You're 9 cents
Compensating
on
rate
a lot
for
more thousands
Yeah.
when there's more houses.
Yeah,
built.
that's right, that's right.
And Kevin's gonna get protection because he's got an ag value, because he's got more than 10 acres.
Ours doubled, so.
And the road structure in the Oxford subdivision is a heck of a lot better than it is on Barkley Road.
Well, it just barely got there though, because it was Barkley Road about 2 years ago, if you'll remember.
Yes, ma'am.
Build it and they
Well-
will come, is that how that works? I don't know.
I don't know who would want 10 acres personally.
Yeah.
It's a lot to mow and
You know,
not a lot you can
unfortunately,
do with it otherwise.
It's tough to mow 5 acres.
Yeah, yeah,
It
didn't
really
say-
is.
Oh, well, that's not, we're not worried about mowing much of that.
Yeah, too hilly,
Oh, yeah.
Pick up rock.
yeah,
That's exactly right. Let it grow up, they want to be back in,
yeah, like in the woods.
yeah,
Lots of votes.
yes.
All right, we've talked this one through quite a bit. Is there anyone else that has any comments to make? And,
Well, I have one.
Yes, sir.
It would be just so that the public, and this is just for other people too. So in order to fix the big picture, this would have to be a county government change in the acreage. That's where it would come from?
that's correct.
The magistrates?
Yeah.
The magistrates would
Fiscal
have to
court needs
pass.
to address the roads, the size of the lots,
And
whole
through the
thing.
years, it's been addressed a number of times, it's just, it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
But it's been addressed a number of times.
That cannot be fixed to the comprehensive plan, as far as the acreage and all that.
I mean, it could be. We've talked about it in the comprehensive plan.
But the county would still have to adopt an ordinance. It could be in the comp plan, and that would make no difference if the ordinance still says you can do it 5 acres. So there's a bunch of work and persuasion that would be necessary. to do.
Has there been much talk in our county government about this issue?
I would say there's been debate, but there's been no push to raise the ag extension, or not the ag extension, the ag conservation board, soil conservation board was pushing the idea of 40-acre lots, and it was debated, and we actually included it as a survey question, and the majority of feedback we got through the surveys of the public at large in the county was that the 5-acre was appropriate to be, they wanted to maintain the current status.
And how long
So-
ago was that survey?
It was in this, it was in the summer of 22, so
So
it
that's
was a year
real
and a half
recent.
ago.
Yeah. Farmers are very
But-
vocal about it. They want the ability to do what they want with their property at the end of the day. And for many, it is their retirement fund. 'Cause farming doesn't come with the 401k.
If you went to 10 acres, you would automatically take away half the value of their land.
I
And
mean,
limit,
the
frankly, we
planning-
talk a lot about
The
affordable
planning
housing,
commission
but it,
could debate and initiate a request, to change to the 5-acre minimum. It would still have to go to fiscal court for a vote.
Okay. I
And-
just want to understand the process.
Yeah, and we have made changes to limit major subdivisions in the county. So any major subdivisions, in that language is clarified in the current comprehensive plan.
It's also a
10
little bit.
lots or more.
The more you limit development, and I understand the desire to do so, the more you hamper affordable housing too, right? There's a supply and demand issue as
But
well.
in this
so-
case,
Yeah.
we're not talking about limited development. We're trying to tie in development with the infrastructure that's there. I mean,
Yeah.
just because you could put a 10-story apartment building there to have more availability, but it wouldn't work there.
I understand.
Now, on-
Then you tie any ordinance to infrastructure, not to size of lot. So
Right.
that's completely different conversation.
That needs merged
That's a
somewhere. or
completely
another.
different
Yeah,
conversation.
that
than
needs, they need to match.
Don't do it because of the size.
Right, because like there's a 400-acre farm right next to that, what would stop, talk about the subdivisions in the county. So what would stop somebody, the 400-acre farm right next door on that type of land, and they wanted, and had the money to do it, to put in a road that was, met specs, and they sold 45-acre tracts off that? That would be totally legal right now on a road like
No.
that?
Not necessarily. They'd have to go through the approval process, so they'd have to apply for a zone change.
Okay.
And that would have to go through planning commission for recommendation, go to fiscal court and get the zone change in place.
Yeah.
Then they would have to, you know,
It
submit a
wouldn't just be
preliminary plat. If they got the zone change requirement triggers a look at the infrastructure.
Okay.
So if there's no,
Yep.
if there's, the roads aren't wide enough, if it's not fire protection, then it would
Yeah.
recommend
But
denial.
Look at the Burton Pike one, that was, what, a couple of years ago. Gorgeous layout, gorgeous everything, but they didn't have a road, they didn't have water, didn't have, a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it didn't fly.
Yep.
They ended up having to break it out into much bigger tracks and much fewer tracks.
Yeah.
So that's the protection.
Okay.
Otherwise, yes, they could, arguably, but zone changes require lots of discretion on the part of the board. And-
Yes.
And in this case, the fiscal court, it's just not gonna happen.
Okay.
But what triggers that is a new road in, you know, you're building new infrastructure, putting a new road in, or 10 or more lots in our current
No.
our recommendations in the current comprehensive
Okay.
plan. It would trigger rezoning, and that
Okay.
would,
All right.
that would trigger the review.
Thanks, Joe.
But
All issues we're not going to solve tonight.
No. And it's not ours to solve. It's not ours to solve.
What
It's
is
not
it?
ours, it's not even ours to solve.
No, it's
We
not.
can't do anything about it.
May I ask one more question?
Yes, sir.
If somebody bought that as a whole and then made one driveway, could they sell it off in 5-acre lots if it had a single driveway?
They would have to go through the rezoning process unless, you know,
But it's
unless
possible.
things change. But currently, no. They could, but they would have to go through a rezoning and.
Right.
and
Which is a bigger
plat
hurdle than the
approval. Yeah.
approval we're talking about here.
Right,
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
thinking, way around it.
If there was a lot sold and somebody else decided to build one next to them, is there gonna be any kind of stipulations to say you had to build a house of such and such? Because somebody might want a $300,000 or $400,000 house and somebody may want a shack. That's something to think about too.
No,
It's up to them.
we don't
individual.
control house size in the zoning ordinance, but they could place deed restrictions or they
Yeah,
could,
the owner can do that, we have no responsibility there.
We couldn't.
yeah.
But he could also put no restrictions, and then there wouldn't be any restrictions.
That's true,
Yeah.
that's entirely up to them.
Let it grow up all the way around it, right? Never put a house on it. if they want.
Anything else? All right. I'll take a motion, of anything.
I'll make a motion for approval of FSP 2024-05.
Motion to approve by Ms. Singer,
I'll second.
second by Dan Smith. Ms. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
I don't know either. Yes.
Mr. Green,
No.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
And the chair votes no also just because of the infrastructure that just isn't there. Not against the development or anything like that, but just too much traffic out there on the road that size.
Yeah, but on the
So-
other hand, you really can't tell this man he can't subdivide.
Exactly.
That's the reason I
Exactly.
voted yes. So
I was just making a
you buy a
statement.
piece of property.
He knew it was gonna pass
you
at
should
that
be able to
point,
do
so
whatever
he
you
could
want
vote
to do
no.
with it.
And so, the
I'd say
motion
same.
passes 5-2 for approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you, Kevin.
And Mister, you might mention to your, insurance, your premium will go down at the hydrants here.
Well, with the, we're within 10 miles of the fire station. So, that was good travel.
Thank you.
I hated to vote yes, but I hate to vote no. It's here. It's here.
The ordinance is already the ordinance.
All right, the only other thing we've got going is the update of the bylaws.
All right. I introduced this last month. It's a proposed amendment to the bylaws to limit any speakers or presentations, discussion to 3 minutes at the discretion of the chair. And it's page 7 of the bylaws. It's all the underlined sections were added. But I guess to summarize it, really, it's just adding that three-minute time limit. If, people repeat themselves, if there's a big group, asking the group to, to get together and elect a speaker, or not to repeat themselves and to limit it to 3 minutes. I don't think it'll be a big issue most of the time, but that's their proposal. We talked about it last time. It's just section 3 of the bylaws on page 7. And, I'm open to any questions or.
What if somebody were to come in and talk about, say, growing your own food or something like that?
Automatically.
Well,
No more.
they need to stay on topic. I think that's clear.
Nathan Billings would be mad.
No, he'll be
But-
Is it
fired
giving
up.
the chairman police enforcement?
I think the chairman is supposed to control the meeting, so kind of already has it, but, I mean, we can, if there's a
pretty good
particularly
job of controlling
contentious
that.
meeting, we can
It has to be on
get
topic, right?
support
I mean-
here from, whoever
So-
we need to, so.
What about, like the presentation, you or Elise make a presentation, it's gonna last more than 3 minutes, so then the owner or the developer should also be able to have as much time to make their presentation. If they if they don't agree with you and want to show the reasons why.
Yeah, that's where the chair's discretion comes in. It
Okay.
doesn't limit staff presentations, so it kicks in if you go through the proposed changes, section 3, A, B, C, D. The chair will call the item to the floor. We'll make a presentation as long as it takes to present the application itself and staff report. Then you can question us, and if it takes more than 3 minutes, our answers or whatever to get you the information, that's not limited. It's just when it gets to the application or the applicant's presentation, it limits it to 3 minutes at your discretion. So
Okay.
if you think they need more time to present or to answer some of the questions in the staff report, they can, you can grant them longer. And then same with the rebuttal. It's limited to 3 minutes at your discretion. If they need additional time, I mean, I guess you're free to
We
grant
have
them
had
extra
some,
time.
presentations, Barkley Meadows, Sims Road, that people got up and just said the same thing over and over again. You know, when they start calling you and asking questions and we know they're gonna be there, it might help if the staff can say, look, if there's a lot of you that are gonna be here, can you please get a spokesman?
And this G gives you the authority even during the meeting, like, let's say some group for Oxford were to show up in their matching T-shirts or something, to say, okay, we need you all to nominate one person to speak, right?
Well, and they did that when.
The second time,
when-
right?
Yeah, when Pokey made
Yeah.
his first presentation, everybody was getting
Uh-huh.
up and going back and forth. The second time they came through,
Yeah.
they elected Brad and he did a great job
And
with
look
it.
what it got him. If he had learned that lesson, I don't know.
I just put my head in.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
I mean, we definitely can give that, guidance to people if they're calling us and.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you
Because
talked about
we-
maybe using Tracy's timer, right? Or either get a timer ourselves or borrow theirs, I don't know.
Well, it seems to me
Yeah,
too, it
we
makes
can
it
get one.
nice that you can at least have that to tell people, hey, you're limited to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that way, they know going in, they can't just say.
And you can tell too when if a big crowd's in the room, standing room only,
Yeah,
when you're introducing, I would say, it looks like tonight there are some controversial topics. We're gonna have the 3-minute rule in place. And it's not just respect for our time, it's respect for all those audience members waiting for their thing to be heard at
yeah,
the end of the
if
agenda.
they're the last
right?
one.
Yeah, and they have to hear all of this for us to go through theirs in 5 minutes.
And then tonight, we get down to the very
Yeah.
last
People
one,
ask
we've
too
got
many questions.
2 different people
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
and it's fine, to.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no reason to
Keep going.
limit it then at
Yeah,
that point.
yeah.
Do we gonna limit you on questions to 3 minutes? too?
Absolutely not.
Everybody's equal.
That's an exclusion specifically written in.
And we can write out guidance and put it on the lectern here so
Yeah.
they can see it in front of them too.
Yeah, okay. So we need a motion.
I'll make a motion for the approval of the updated bylaws.
I'll second it.
Who is that, Mr. Jesse?
Yes.
All right. We have a motion and a second to update the bylaws. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
We'll buy you time.
I looked up on Amazon, they had kids ones, and also to show the red,
Nice.
yellow, green sort of, hey, you're getting close kind of thing, but
Yeah.
there might be other ones out there, like at an office supply store.
And stuff that you can alternate back and
Uh-huh.
forth, where you start it when someone stops and then when they're done, you
Yeah.
kind of pop
Mhm.
it around. We'll have to just turn
Get
it
one
forward
with a
with
buzz
some
around
monitor
it.
that,
Uh,
so you can see it, you know what's happening.
I'll buy
Yeah.
you.
Cut the mic, we'll cut the mic at 3 minutes.
Turn the lights off, we slowly fade your.
That's
red.
right. Sorry, the mic goes up.
All right, let's get back on. Approval
they?
of the
Walmart,
draft
okay.
budget. We don't have to have that in till next month.
Right, we don't need that in till the 15th, so I would suggest, I gave everybody the copy of the draft budget. I suggest we just wait till next month, because I might get new information in
Right.
from the county on guidance,
Okay?
so we can wait on that.
And then the third thing is approval of the audit that we heard from Charles T. Mitchell, Public Accountants.
I do have a
on that.
recommendation on the audit based on
Yes, sir.
standard accounting practice for organizations like this. And Joe, did a lot of it so long that I asked the question. If you are, in the good standard practice, you put it out for bid every so many years, and they've had it for how many years?
It's been 20, I think, is what he said.
Good practice for this board,
Yeah.
make sure we adopt that standard of putting it out for bid.
Next year, yeah,
And
wouldn't be
if
bad.
no one else comes forward, you have done your due diligence and passed the government standards.
Yeah.
You running a CPA firm now?
I used to,
Just teasing.
I used to do the accounting for Larry over
Oh.
back in the Stone Age.
Yeah, I remember Larry Nolan.
So we do need a acceptance of the budget,
Oh,
or of
okay,
the,
I'm
not the
sorry.
budget, the, the
Audit.
audit,
The
yeah.
audit.
I'll make a motion to accept the audit.
I'll second. All right, I
Charlie's
have
got the keys
a
out ready to go.
motion and a second. All in favor to approve the audit, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Done. Before anybody else
You
can
might
get
have, I
anything.
don't know, is that-
Charlie, I've got a question for you.
I think we're about an hour left.
In one of my continuing education.